The mixer starts with Adam's kickoff. I'm to introduce myself last in turn. As Adams said, it seems all three women work as secretaries. Apart from Adams and me, there's another guy, a friend from Adams's college days, who works at a fairly well-known company. Adams is still a student in grad school but bragged during his introduction, "I'm a grad student at K University, and I'll be joining the workforce this spring. I've already got a job lined up, so all that's left is to have a blast until graduation." K University is known for its high academic standards in New York. The beautiful secretaries seemed impressed, saying, "That's amazing." Then it was my turn to introduce myself. Despite my strong desire to leave, I found myself opening my mouth to say something noncommittal. "My name's Alex Harrington. I'm a middle school classmate with Adams." "Nice to meet you," I said, my voice tinged with disinterest and quietness. Immediately, Adams reacted, "What? Haven't you changed your last name? I remember you as Montgomery." "Well, it's okay. Everyone has their circumstances." I dodged the question because explaining felt too bothersome. Then Adams said, "There you go again, being all secretive. We're friends, aren't we? You can tell me anything." "No, we're not friends. Just former classmates," I muttered to myself. Adams continued, "By the way, which high school did you end up going to? I asked our classmates, but nobody seems to know. I mean, your brother was outstanding, but you and your younger brother weren't that great, right? I was curious, but nobody has any info." Adams boldly asked this in front of everyone. As I remained silent, dumbfounded, Adams said, Oops, sorry. I guess you don't want to say because it was a low-ranking high school. Or maybe you didn't even go to high school, and you're just a middle school grad, right? Well, if you're too embarrassed to say, I won't push you." His insensitivity was too much, so I snapped, "Adams, cut it out. Your lack of sensitivity is really something, you know." Then, as if offended, Adams retorted, "I've got a job offer from a well-known company, unlike you, Anit." At that moment, one of the beautiful secretaries sitting in a row, the one in the middle, spoke up. "Excuse me, I've been wondering, but are you really Alex Harrington, not someone with the same name?" I was taken aback. "Oh, you know my name. You're a secretary at a top company. You might come across such information." As I responded, Adams looked around, panicked, and said, "Wait, what are you talking about? Alex is my classmate Alex, right? Not some low-educated neat Alex. What else could there be?" Then, the beautiful secretary from before said to Adams, You don't know him." At that, the two women sitting on either side exchanged looks and simultaneously said, "I'm right, and that's what I was thinking." Then the woman on the left said to Adams, "Even though you're a grad student at a good university, it seems you're quite naive about the world for not having entered society yet." And the woman sitting on the right sharply criticized Adams, "To talk down to your classmate like that and then not know anything about him. I question your character. You guys are quite blunt, aren't you?" Adams was pale and taken aback. Even the male friend of Adams present said, "I gotta say, I'm a bit taken aback by what you said. It's unbelievable to take such a rude stance without knowing anything about Alex." And maybe it was because he felt left out in that moment. Adams took out his smartphone and began searching for my name. "My name is Alex Montgomery. I was born and raised in a rural town, the second son among three brothers. The brothers were spaced 2 years apart, with the eldest brother being Michael, and the youngest brother being Ethan. Our father always said, education is everything. Go to a school with a high deviation score, from the time we were young. And when my brother Michael started elementary school, he seemed to excel at his studies, always bringing home tests with perfect scores. This kid has potential." Thinking so, my father hired a tutor for my brother. He became known for always being at the top of his class in our small rural town. Michael was known locally as a bright student. Proud of this, our father constantly urged me and my younger brother Ethan to become as excellent as Michael. However, neither Ethan nor I could bring home perfect scores on every exam after entering elementary school. As for me, I was average in my studies, somewhere in the middle. I could keep up with school lessons, but I wasn't consistently scoring perfect marks. And as for Ethan, he struggled greatly with studies. He disliked sitting still at a desk and preferred physical activity, so his grades and physical education were good. Additionally, he was also bright and charming, making him popular in class. In contrast, I was mediocre in both studies and sports. Not being particularly good at socializing, I envied Ethan for his higher abilities in other areas, even though he wasn't as good at studying. So, I once told Ethan about it. "Ethan, you're lucky. Weren't you chosen for the relay race at the sports festival? My friend's sister said you looked cool." That was when I was in 3rd grade, so Ethan must have been in 1st grade. Back then, Ethan, being honest and cute, blushed and smiled shyly, looking happy when I praised him. However, our father's values were entirely different from mine, and the pressure on Ethan gradually increased. "Can't Alex and Ethan score as well as Michael does? Even though you're brothers, why can't you do the same? We're not exactly rolling in dough, but we're stretching ourselves thin to hire tutors as Michael. Improve your grades and show some gratitude." That's what our father would say to us when we were in elementary school. And to Ethan, especially, whose grades were particularly bad, he would often say, "Just because you're fast doesn't mean anything if you're not smart. If you have time to run, you should be studying instead." Even though Ethan was just in the lower grades of elementary school, these harsh words made him quieter and his expression darker over time, marking a stark change from the bright and honest boy he used to be. Our mother, worried about Ethan, would ask our father not to push him too hard, but our father, stubborn as he was, wouldn't listen. Michael continued to be at the top of his class in middle school. Then, he proceeded to the top high school in the region, eventually graduating as the valedictorian. On the other hand, I was average in everything. My mother would tell me, "Alex, you are fine just the way you are." But when I entered middle school, with my brother in his last year there, I couldn't help but feel overshadowed and compared to him. "Your brother's the top of his grade, isn't he? And then there's you. What a shame." Adams, a classmate, would often say to me, "Alex, with a brother as outstanding as yours, I think you could aim higher if you tried harder." My luck had it that my teacher in the 1st year of middle school had been my brother's teacher the previous year and would say such things. I thought to myself, my brother isn't me. I couldn't help but feel out of place with those words, but they somehow challenged me. I studied hard for the next test to prove them wrong. Thanks to that, my grades improved slightly on the next exam. "You can do it if you try," my teacher praised me. Looking back, I think the teacher was trying to motivate me by comparing me to my brother. So maybe that method wasn't wrong. However, I didn't feel happy at all when praised by the teacher. Instead, I thought it was pointless. And so, when my brother went off to high school and I moved up to the 8th grade, I stopped trying hard in my studies. From then on, I barely studied at all, and my grades plummeted. Eventually, even my father noticed and preached me night after night. "I expected you were different from Ethan. As long as you tried, you could do it. Why are your grades so terrible? Are you taking your life for granted?" But even faced with my father's words, I, in the throes of adolescence and full-on rebellion, was unfazed. As a kid, I might have reflected and tried harder after being scolded by my father, but I was past that age. I had decided not to study, and my grades continued to drop. And the image of me being average at everything fell to someone who's bad at studying. Even so, I had a crush on a girl in my class, but as the unremarkable guy I was, I didn't have the guts to confess my feelings, so I kept them to myself through middle school. Looking back now as an adult, I realize parents have their own circumstances and values, and every family is different. Reflecting on my life up to middle school, it wasn't particularly shining, but becoming an adult, I owe it to my parents. My childhood was dominated by comparisons with my brother and my father's values, but I've come to see that as just one page of life's book. And now, I'm 26 years old. Rounding up, that's practically 30. Sure feels like I've grown up quite a bit. That's what I was musing about on the eve of my birthday. Coming home from work, I got a call from my mom. Hello. Calls from her weren't all that frequent, so I was curious what it was about as I answered. Alex. Happy birthday." "It's not yet. My birthday is tomorrow." I couldn't help but chuckle, thinking my mom had finally mixed up my birthday. Well, with 3 sons, I guess getting one wrong once in a while is to be expected. I know that. I'd never forget my own child's birthday. I went through a lot to have all three of you. My mom briskly cut for my mistaken assumption. It's not about that. There was a letter for you, and I called to tell you about that. And since your birthday is tomorrow, I just wished you early. A letter? Yeah. It's an invitation to your middle school reunion. Oh, is that so? Well, I'm not planning to go, so you can just toss it. With that, I ended the call. The next night, after that conversation, I received a call from an unknown number on my cell phone. Skeptical but somewhat curious, I answered it, and a man's voice came through. Alex, it's Adams. How have you been? Memories I had forgotten came flooding back. Adams, a classmate from middle school. But rather than feeling a warm sense of nostalgia, my mood dipped since I hadn't really liked Adams back then. Adams, oh, long time no see. How are you? I replied in a low, subdued voice. Then, a question popped into my head. How did you get my phone number? I asked Adams just that. Then I received this reply. Yesterday, I got your mom's contact. She's the one who gave me your number. I was completely lost, so I asked for more clarification. Why would my mom contact you? Then Adams explained. I'm organizing the middle school reunion, and when we don't have card contacts, we send letters to the home addresses. Your mom saw my mobile number written on a letter and called me. Things started to make a bit more sense to me. So, you mean my mom contacted you because I said I wasn't going to the reunion? When I asked this, Adams confirmed, exactly. And since I was in touch, I thought I'd reach out to you directly and got your number then. I couldn't help but smirk before Adams finished speaking. Mom, don't go giving out my contact to people, I muttered to myself. But from her perspective, Adams was a friend of her son, almost like another son to her. I guess I could understand why she might share that out of nostalgia. Anyway, I heard from your mom yesterday that you've moved up to New York. Turns out, I'm in New York too, and I thought it'd be great to meet up. Not for a big reunion or anything, just a small get-together for a meal. Adams said. Mom, please stop leaking my personal info to old classmates, I muttered internally. But for the same reasons as before, I found myself somewhat forgiving. Ignoring my lukewarm or yeah responses, Adams continued. So, are you free tomorrow night? A few of us are getting together for drinks. Want to come? Who's going to be there? Come on, it'll be fun. Surprise yourself. Let's meet at 7 p.m. in West Village. I'll text you the place details later. Bye. And with that, Adams hung up. Soon after, a text with the details of the venue arrived. West Village, huh? A fancy spot for a classmate gathering. Feeling a bit off but too lazy to send a cancellation message, I decided to show up, thinking it wouldn't hurt to make an appearance just this once. The following evening, I headed to the specified venue, and Adams was already there to greet me from inside the restaurant. Hey, Alex. It's been too long, man. Happy to see you. This way. Led by Adams to our table, I found one unknown man and 3 unknown women sitting there. I thought this was going to be a small gathering of classmates. I was surprised and asked Adams that. Did I say that? I only said it's gonna be a small group for drinks. Never mentioned classmates. Adams seemed a bit surprised as he responded to me. It appeared there was a misunderstanding somewhere in the conversation, which I reluctantly had to admit. So, what kind of drinking party is this? At that point, it clicked for me, and Adams hit the nail on the head with his answer. Well, with 3 guys and 3 girls, it's obviously a mixer. You can tell just by looking. We were short 1 male, so I called you in. I was disappointed. If I had known it was a mixer, I would have declined. I regretted not clarifying beforehand. You should have told me that. These ladies are stunning. All 3 of them are secretaries at top companies. Adams seemed oblivious to my muttered complaints, whispering excitedly in my ear. Do you do mixers like this often? When I responded, Adams proudly said, yeah, kind of. I begrudgingly greeted the mixer participants with a slight grin and took my seat with a heavy heart. All right, everyone's here, so shall we get started? Adams kicked off the mixer. We were going to introduce ourselves in turn, and I was last. True to Adams's word, all 3 women were secretaries. The other guy, besides Adams and me, was a friend of Adams from university, working at a fairly well-known company. Although Adams was still a student in graduate school, he boasted, "I'm a grad student at K University, but I'll be joining the workforce this spring. Got a job lined up, so now it's just partying until graduation." K University is known for its high academic standards in the city. The beautiful secretaries seemed impressed, saying, "That's amazing." Then it was my turn to introduce myself. Despite my strong desire to leave, I found myself opening my mouth to say something noncommittal. "I'm Alex Harrington, Adams's middle school classmate. Nice to meet you." I said it in a disinterested, quiet voice. Adams immediately reacted, "Hasn't your last name changed? I knew you as Montgomery, right?" His eyes wide with surprise. It's fine. People have their reasons, you know, various ones." I dodged the question because I didn't feel like explaining. Then Adams said, "There you go again, being all secretive. We're friends, right? You can tell me anything." "No, we're not friends. Just former classmates, that's all," I muttered to myself. Adams continued, "Anyway, where did you end up going to high school? I asked our classmates, but nobody knows. I mean, your brother was brilliant, but you and your brother Ethan weren't exactly top of the class, right? I was just curious since nobody had any info." Adams asked such a blunt question in front of everyone. As I remained silent in disbelief, Adams went on, "Oops, sorry. I guess you don't want to say because it was a low-ranking high school. Or maybe you didn't even go to high school, and you're just a middle school grad, right? Well, if you're too embarrassed to say, I won't push you." His insensitivity was too much, and I snapped, "Adams, cut it out. Your insensitivity is really something, you know." Adams, possibly feeling offended, retorted, "I've got a job offer from a prestigious company, unlike you, Anit." He looked down on me smugly. That's when it happened. One of the three beautiful secretaries sitting side by side, the one in the middle, spoke up. "Excuse me, I've been wondering, but are you Alex Harrington? Not someone with the same name, but actually you." I was taken aback. "Oh, you know my name. You're a secretary at a top company. You might come across such information." As I responded, Adams started looking around frantically and said, "Wait, what are you talking about? The Alex you're talking about is my classmate Alex, right? The undereducated NEET Alex. What else could it be?" Then, the secretary who spoke up earlier said to Adams, "You don't know this person." At that, the two women sitting on either side exchanged looks and simultaneously said, "I'm right, and that's what I was thinking." Then the woman on the left said to Adams, "Even though you're a grad student at a prestigious university, it seems you're quite naive about the world for not having entered society yet." And the woman on the right sharply criticized Adams, "After looking down on your classmate like that and not knowing anything about him, I question your character. You guys are quite blunt, aren't you?" Adams was pale and taken aback. Even Adams's male friend present said, "I gotta say, I'm a bit taken aback by what you said. It's unbelievable to act so rudely without knowing anything about Alex." And maybe it was because he felt left out at that moment. Adams took out his smartphone and began searching for my name. No way. Alex Harrington, a celebrity, successful in starting up an IT company at a young age, constantly featured in the media, and buzzing from regular appearances on streaming shows. As Adams read the information displayed on his smartphone, he eventually fell silent, stunned. "Adams, you know, having good grades in school is fine, but being so focused and naive about the real world isn't great. If you're going to a mixer with beautiful secretaries, having some knowledge about business and startups might do you some good, right?" After being called out by a friend like that, Adams was left speechless and couldn't reply. But then, as if he had a sudden realization, Adams said to me, "What do you mean? The Alex I know had bottom-of-the-barrel grades, and nobody even knew which high school you went to. It's normal to think you were just an undereducated NEET, right? How did you end up like this? It's nothing really. Not worth mentioning." As I said, I didn't want to go into detail about myself and tried to end a conversation there. "But Alex, you graduated from Oxford, right?" However, Adams's male friend seemed to know about my educational background and forced me into explaining. "Yes. Initially, I hadn't planned on attending high school, but I ultimately obtained a high school diploma through online courses. While considering my educational path, I aimed to broaden my perspective beyond traditional boundaries. I decided to challenge myself by applying to a renowned university overseas. I believe in the power of personal growth through challenges and exploration. As I said this, the beautiful secretaries exclaimed in admiration, "Wow, you didn't have the ability to succeed in a challenge like that when you were in middle school." Adams still seemed incredulous. "Well, I've been through a lot," I simply stated. I thought there was no need to share the hardships I've been through with people I'm meeting for the first time or with Adams at this mixer. And then I thought, being known and coming to a mixer wasn't a good idea. I wasn't even told it was a mixer, and I shouldn't be here. So I stood up to leave, making my excuses. I have to go back to work because it's busy. Thank you for today. And secretly, I settled everyone's bill at the exit and left the place. A lot has happened to me over these past dozen years. The reason I stopped trying in school and let my grades drop back in middle school was actually for Ethan's sake. We brothers are 2 years apart. When I was in 9th grade, Ethan was entering 7th grade at the same middle school. At that time, I strongly didn't want Ethan to feel miserable being compared to his brother, as I had been. My brother was top of his class, and despite having average grades, I hated being compared to him. Ethan struggled with schoolwork, so his grades would be even lower. If I tried hard and raised my own grades, Ethan would be compared to me and feel sad, and it was certain that he would be scolded by our father again. I deliberately lowered my grades so that Ethan and I would both be seen as the brothers who weren't good at studying, thinking the comparisons would lessen. And indeed, that's how it turned out. Ethan, who had been losing confidence since he was young due to constant comparisons and criticism from our father about his academic abilities, found his confidence through sports and regained his naturally bright personality, enjoying his middle school life. As Ethan's brother, I truly thought that was the best outcome. I figured my academic path could be corrected later. Actually, when I was in 7th grade, I put in a bit of effort in my studies and somehow got the hang of improving my grades. I was more interested in the higher education system in the UK. College actually has another meaning in the UK. It's where many students go for 2 years after completing compulsory schooling at 16 in order to prepare for exams to get into university. Additionally, in the UK, students apply to a university and a course at the same time, so there's no great existential debate over what you should study while in school. I studied hard for what was necessary to get into a British college. When I received the admission letter from University of Oxford, I couldn't believe it, but from that point, my life changed. Being inspired by my college peers and connecting with friends who were striving to carve out their lives was significant. I started a business while still in college, and after graduating, I returned to New York to base myself. But I try every day to apply what I learned in college in my own country. My success in my career has led my father to stop complaining. In fact, he even said, "I was wrong to scold you so much compared to Michael when you were kids." Whenever I have the chance to talk to my father, I often tell him, "I don't mind about me, but I want you to apologize to Ethan." Ethan has come to dislike our father completely, not contacting or seeing him at all. He was good at sports and loved basketball the most, continuing it and shining in high school basketball, which led to his college admission through athletic recruitment. Michael, the eldest brother, eventually shared a similar mindset to mine. He developed a keen interest in studying abroad and transferred to a university in England. After graduating, he liked living there so much that he decided to work and stay in England, showing no signs of returning to his homeland. Fortunately, the brothers have a good relationship, keeping in touch with each other, and our mother had always been opposed to the way our father educated me and Ethan. Because our father always acted superior and was harsh on our mother, she couldn't take it anymore and divorced him when Ethan entered college. We brothers didn't oppose the divorce at all. Rather, we wanted our mother to find happiness away from our stubborn and selfish father. As for what happened at the mixer after I left, I don't know and don't care. Since then, time has passed without any contact from Adams. One day, Adams have completely faded from my memory. It might have been about a year since the mixer. I had just registered my marriage with my longtime girlfriend, and we were shopping in town that day. His wife's name is Natalie. Natalie and I had been together since before I went to college in the UK, enduring a long-distance relationship during my college years, which made her feel lonely. Though it was lonely at the time, since it was my decision to go to England. Now that we're married, I want to make her as happy as possible to make up for those times. Being busy with work, spending a day out together like this is rare. Savoring our precious time together, I enjoyed looking at clothes she wanted to buy. Then, I heard someone call my name from behind. Alex. Turning around, there was Adams. It's been a while since the mixer. Adams, what a coincidence. I replied. Adams, who was still a student back then, now looked more mature with his hairstyle, perhaps because he's a working adult now. Your girlfriend, Adams said, looking at the woman with me. Yeah, she's actually my wife, I said, a bit flustered. Why flustered, you ask? Wait a minute, your wife? No way. When did you guys? Adams had noticed. My wife, Natalie, smiled shyly. Adams, long time no see. Natalie said. Yes, my wife Natalie was actually a classmate from middle school. Seriously. Adams was dumbfounded. Alex, you've achieved a lot of things I envy without me knowing. You win, man, completely. Adams then muttered. There's no winning or losing in life. You haven't lost anything. I wanted to say that striving for superiority won't bring happiness. Just doing the best you can is all there is. But thinking it might not come across well to Adams, I left it and just said, see you around, and we parted ways then. That evening, Adams called my cell phone. What's up? I thought, but answered the call. Hey, I'm sorry, Alex. I realized I was acting like a big shot. I was wrong to look down on you so much. I understood that today. Adams apologized. I replied, even though I was thinking, why bring this up now? It's fine. Then Adams suddenly started talking about our school days. Actually, I've always had a crush on your wife, Natalie, since middle school. She was everyone's dream girl, right? Back then, I was playing the cool guy, but honestly, I lacked confidence in myself. I could never muster the courage to confess my feelings to Natalie or ask her out. So, it remained an unrequited love. But then, in high school, an opportunity came. Natalie and I went to the same high school. I had heard from Natalie that she and Adams had been at the same high school. Adams continued. Since it was just Natalie and me from the same middle school who went to F high school, I made an effort at the beginning, talking to her whenever we passed each other in the corridors. I decided I would confess to her during the school trip, but then, some other guy beat me to it and confessed to her before I could. And then he said, Natalie said she already had a boyfriend and rejected me. I was shocked. She said her boyfriend wasn't from our high school. I immediately said, yay, that boyfriend was me. Hearing that line, Adams seemed to freeze on the phone for a while, staying silent. You guys have been together since back then and got married. Why? How could you, considered undereducated back then, end up dating Natalie? And here I was, hoping to see Natalie at the reunion I organized. Natalie didn't show up, though. Well, even if she had, I wouldn't have known she was your girlfriend, Adams said, sounding frustrated. I studied at an online high school and worked at a cafe chain during the day. Then, Natalie started showing up at the store repeatedly during weekday afternoons. It wasn't exam period, and normally she would be at school, so it was strange. I asked her if something was up, and she told me she was struggling with her future path and hesitant about going to school, ending up not going for several days. I ended up giving her advice on her worries, and eventually, she started going back to high school. That's how we got close and started dating. I explained to Adams. I've liked Natalie since middle school, too, I muttered to myself, but didn't quite say it out loud. I was forced to study with a tutor since elementary school, and growing up, my parents always told me I wasn't doing well. I lacked confidence in myself and thought I absolutely needed academic achievements, or life would be tough. So, I worked really hard to improve my grades and obtained a high level of education. I used to think that academic achievements were everything and that people with lower academic credentials were beneath me. I was wrong. Why Natalie chose me is something only Natalie knows. Life surely involves fate and encounters. And hearing Adams had also struggled with confidence due to his family environment. I empathize with him and at the same time encouraged him. You too can reflect on yourself and move forward. You're an incredible person capable of effort. It feels weird being praised by you all of a sudden, Adams said, laughing. I laughed back. It seems, albeit belatedly, that this guy and I could become good friends. I suggested to Adams, let's go out for drinks sometime. Sure, Adams responded enthusiastically.